So I thought I'd just make a short little description on how I made this quick little animated picture here. Fairly simple, but a lot of work did go into making this. Hopefully it's not too hard to hear. Hopefully my air conditioning isn't drowning me out too much, but yeah. So this was the base vector in Inkscape, and if I bring out my layers, you can see all the different elements that went into making this. First off, to get the hand movement right, the opening fingers and everything, I separated out, basically made a puppet out of the hand, one that I could position each one and manipulate it if I needed to. This is of course what it looks like all put together, you know, in its different elements there. And then his beard also has a slight movement. So to make sure that I had the movements placed correctly, as in nothing looked a little jittery or misplaced or anything like that, is I made just a little guide, basically. Just these lines just to help me position his arm for the movement, just to help guide me with the placement of his arm and the different movements. And so to do this, if I were to do the first frame, so actually as you can see up here, these are all the different frames that I had. These is a separate arm positioned for each separate frame. So say if I wanted to do frame 1, I'd grab this, drag it over here to the puppet rig, or to the vector, and right now behind his actual arm that's going to be showing, I have a layer that's set with a really low opacity so that I can see kind of the root, like where everything started and then where it's going to finish too. So then I set the placement there like that. I then came and I will hide that layer behind it, and I will hide the arm rig. And then I'm going to come up to export, and then I would export it, calling this one frame 1, of course, different things like that. And then if I wanted to go and do frame 2, I would turn on my guide for frame 2. Oops. Gotta make sure I grab everything. Make sure I grab everything and get it out of the way. So then once I grab frame 2, kind of the same thing, but now because it's not the same as my layer back there, the positioning became an issue for me at a point. But I figured that I would have this corner of my guide right here line up with this line here for his finger, halfway between that point and this point, you know, kind of in line with it right there. And then the whole time his arm as well right here will match up with this point here where his arm intersects with his body. At this point I tried to make not move as much as possible. Then you can also see the slight beard movement that there is. So then same process again, I would hide the transparent layer behind it, and then the guide for this particular position of the arm, and then I'd come and export it. And I repeat that process for all the frames. Now, when I got to actually, the beard movement was fairly easy. In Inkscape you can do a lot of image transforming. So with the beard selected, I made it so I have this particular arrow icon so I can drag it like this. So then you kind of super basic. You know, like if I really wanted to get fancy, I probably could have done something a little bit more realistic, but for the sake of not being able to work with Flash, you know, that's just what I went for. And then when it came to the arm or the finger movements, same thing, is I rotated the layer, repositioned accordingly, you know, got my lines over here to match up, and then that's what it looks like as compared to the original position. You know, it was the same thing for this finger, and I would move it up a little bit. Same thing with his thumb. The thumb rotated down, and then I dragged it back down here like that. It was also the big portion of his arm here. This is the main portion of the arm that moved throughout the whole animation. This portion actually does not move. It stays in this same orientation like this. It's simply just like sweeping down. I mean, if you actually look at it, you can kind of see how this portion of the arm is the part that's moving, but yet this vertical portion is, yes, it's moving, but it's not rotating like this one is. You can see the finger movement, like the pinky staying still, but then these two fingers are the ones that are moving along with the thumb a little bit. You can see what the beard movement looks like. All in all, it was about a week of working on this, just trying to figure out what I needed to do exactly to achieve the correct movement, to do it cleanly, and then also, you know, like it took me a good day to figure out the puppet for his hand, believe it or not. And then just after that, it was just a lot of planning and figuring out exactly what I needed to do to make it work, and yeah. And you can see too, it was originally going to be 15 frames, and the 15th frame was actually frame 1 as well, but then it kind of looked funny with that, because it was a quick little pause there too, but yeah. So, that's pretty much how I made this.